Alright, hello everyone. I hope you're having a wonderful day today. Uh, Before we start, I just wanted to say, mid-background, I think it looks pretty good. But anyway, putting the cat back. So, welcome everyone. We are back with another SCP reading. Starting off today, we have SCP-058, Object Class Keter. Containment Procedures. SCP-058 is to be kept in isolation in a 5 meter by 5 meter by 5 meter containment chamber at all times. Walls are to be constructed of 3 meter, 10 foot, of reinforced heat-resistant steel, backed with a further 10 meters, or 33 feet, of reinforced concrete. SCP-058 is to be fed a live cow every 3 days. Maintenance is to be conducted every 60 minutes, while SCP-058 is dormant, and every 15 minutes, while SCP-058 is active. Under no circumstance is SCP-058 to be allowed out of its containment area. SCP-058 is to be audio recorded at all times. No personnel are to listen to SCP-058 for more than 30 minutes at a time. In case of escape, facility is to be considered compromised and detonation of on-site nuclear weaponry is to commence. To date, SCP-058 has been responsible for the death of at least 149 D-Class personnel and 14 agents at its current site. Description: SCP-058 resembles a bovine heart with 4 arthropod-like legs used primarily for movement and 4 tentacles of adjustable length covered with razor-sharp spines. It is a single sharp stinger on its rear, where the hole for the superior vena cava would be in a typical organ. SCP-058's tentacles can be whipped to a distance of 3.2 meters, or 10.5 feet, at speeds in excess of 320 kilometers per hour, or 200 miles per hour. SCP-058 is extremely hostile, and will use every opportunity afforded to it to inflict damage on its surroundings. SCP-058 has been shown to be highly resilient to trauma, and should be approached with caution even when apparently incapacitated. SCP-058 has been shown to be highly resistant to trauma. I just reread the same thing. Let's try that again. SCP-058 is highly mobile and capable of rapid movement on both horizontal and vertical surfaces. It has been recorded reaching a speed of approximately 90 kilometers per hour, or 55 miles per hour, in short bursts, covering distances up to 200 meters, or 656 feet, and has the ability to accelerate from 0 to 90 kilometers per hour, 55 miles per hour, in less than 2 seconds. It has been shown to use its tentacles for increased leverage and stability, as well as utilizing them to pull itself across surfaces at high speeds. SCP-058 speaks in a human voice, though no known method of producing sound has been observed in its physiology. It speaks with vocal tone and accent of an elderly British male, with a slight lisp and deep voice. SCP-058 talks constantly, regardless of conditions. Even when attacking, SCP-058's voice and pace of speech are unchanged. The speech of SCP-058 lacks any discernible correlation to events, persons, or exterior locations involved with SCP-058. See transcript of interview 058-4. Notes: SCP-058 was encountered at Site Blank as it came out of data expunged. SCP-058 was extremely hostile and appeared to be very agitated. Initially, SCP-058 attacked Site Blank, which resulted in the death of Blank facility and Blank agents. SCP-058 went on to attack the nearby town of Blank, resulting in the death of over redacted citizens and the destruction of 70% of the surrounding buildings. Post-breach analysis determined a majority of the deaths were attributed to fire and fire-related injuries resulting from a widespread of stinger fluid by SCP-058 from a large structure. This is also blamed for a majority of structural damage. Blank by SCP-058 accounts for only 8% of total deaths, with major evidence data expunged. SCP-058 was finally contained after being crushed and incapacitated by a large amount of masonry from a building that had collapsed on top of it. SCP-058 was then extracted and transported to Blank by agents and MTF teams. SCP-058 was contained at Blank for 3 weeks, during which it made minimal attempts to move, attributed both to physical damage and bloating from Blank during the initial breach incident. Testing during this period was limited, with SCP-058 still maintaining a high threat level even in its impaired state. SCP-058 breached containment on blank 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 during an attempt transfer to an SCP containment site, causing multiple deaths and injuries. SCP-058 was eventually incapacitated by Agent Blank, who managed to subdue SCP-058 by running it over with an M1 tank, pinning it beneath the armored vehicle. SCP-058 was subsequently secured and transported to Armed Biocontainment Area 14. Addendum. The SCP-1175 containment team has observed significant agitation in SCP-1175-2 on a number of dates that coincide with prolonged breaches of SCP-058's containment. Additionally, personnel assigned to AI-2471-GH2's maintenance have reported inexplicable heart palpitations during similar timeframes. Investigation into possible connections is pending RAISA approval. Transcript of Interview 058-4. SCP-058. I had dreams of the Queen, one that lived inside the hearts of love and silent treatments, of all the elderly that I knew were once whole. Dr. Johnson. What is your name? SCP-058. I seek the revelations of all that the holy told to you unwise. In the dreams of cold embers in sunlight that fade across lakes of black blood and snakes that eat the loaves of children from lamb trees in autumn. Dr. Johnson. What is your name? SCP-058. Endless suffering is the woe of ignorant men who forever lack to seek the depth of their own heart, and only see the wealth of poor world suffering to flay its own back in knife wounds of silver and brutal gladness. Dr. Johnson. Where are you from? SCP-058. The nightmare is a dream to the nameless slug that wanders across minefield and the remains of deer and kings. Personnel D-067. This is some creepy-ass... D-067 cuts off into screaming. SCP-058. Night fade is shadows in all that honest blinks, that sought through the bile of newborn plagues, instant warmth in a mother's milk, in dreams before anything was ever evil. Personnel D-067 continues screaming. Dr. Johnston. Let him go! SCP-058. In seconds, the sun is beating like drums. In all hearts eat the ear of noise. Personnel D-067. Ah! Screaming is cut short abruptly. SCP-058. The sensual violence of lust is all that assurance You will ever need to know the whole of life. End log. Hopefully I did lisp well. I probably offended someone there, though, and for that I apologize. Alright, going up to the links. No personnel are to listen to SCP-058 for more than 30 minutes at a time. This is a link to other tales, so we're not going to do this yet, but if someone wants to hear it, just request the Drooling Path Hub, because there are a few tales here. Also, probably remind me of where it is if I don't remember. Alright, then we have a link for SCP-1175, which we're not going to go to, and a link for AI-2471-GH2s. Which is... I think this is supposed to be something similar to an SCP. Well, why not? As long as these iterations aren't too long. Wait, no, this is an SCP. Alright, this is SCP-5742, so we'll come back to it another time. Well, that's the end of SCP-058. On to SCP-059. Object Class Keter. Special Containment Procedures. A single specimen of 059 is kept at Site 11B, inside a graded Z laminate shielding box composed of depleted uranium, tantalum, tin, steel, copper, and aluminum. Surrounding SCP-059's containment box is a 7x7x7 meter area, sealed as a Level 4 biohazard area, and surrounded by 3 centimeters of lead shielding. This area is to be sprayed daily with a solution of methyl isothiocyanate to prevent overgrowth of SCP-059-1. Personnel entering SCP-059's affected area are cautioned to wear appropriate biohazard protection as well as Type K-59-B radiation shielding. They are to remain in the area for no more than 15 minutes, as the radiation shielding is only partially effective. SCP-059-1 infestations found in the wild should be contained by removing SCP-059 specimen responsible. The SCP-059 specimen responsible. And incineration of all observed SCP-059-1. Large underground infestations are best neutralized by fuel-air, thermobaric explosives. Additional specimens of SCP-059 are not needed for experimentation and should be transported to Site 11B for incineration by plasma arc at 10,000 degrees Kelvin. Description: SCP-059 is a radioactive mineral of unknown origin, superficially resembling scheelite. A component of SCP-059 is believed to originate in an alternate universe and to be responsible for its anomalous properties. In addition to alpha, beta, and gamma radiation, SCP-059 specimens produce a previously unknown type of radiation, apparently unique to the object, tentatively designated delta radiation. Delta radiation is accompanied by Cherenkov radiation, visible as a blue glow. Delta radiation is only partially contained by standard radiation shielding. The best results have been obtained using grade Z laminate shielding with an additional superdense metal layer. This reduces the effective range of delta radiation from approximately 2 meters. I'm just getting a lot of stuff wrong. From approximately 20 meters to approximately 6 meters. When an area is exposed to delta radiation for more than 15 minutes, an unknown species of fungus, designated SCP-059-1, begins to grow on any exposed surface. This fungus does not require any standard nutrition, but will die within 24 hours of removal from a delta radiation source. SCP-059-1 is itself radioactive, but does not emit delta radiation. However, if a critical mass, approximately blank kilograms per meter cubed, of SCP-059-1 is allowed to grow, delta radiation from an unknown source other than SCP-059 will appear in the area, further supporting SCP-059-1 growth. Interested readers may consult Dr. Blank for his theories on time-space stress and merger of alternate realities. Within 18 hours, the infected mass will become transparent and disappear, presumably into the universe, which is the source of delta radiation. The process then continues with SCP-059-1 infecting new material. SCP-059-1 will infest both living and inanimate objects. Humans and animals infected with SCP-059-1 become immune to the effects of ionizing radiation, but progressively merge with SCP-059-1 and eventually have all tissues replaced by fungal growth. While generally nonviolent, they will attempt to expose unaffected individuals to SCP-059. SCP-059-1 infection. SCP-059-1 infections do not appear to be directly contagious, but only spread by contact with delta radiation. However, long-term exposure to SCP-059-1 has not been adequately tested to rule out considering it a biohazard, as well as a known radiation hazard. Infected individuals still capable of communication describe seeing a world entirely covered with SCP-059-1, where much of the surface is composed of SCP-059. It is unclear whether this is a hallucination or a view into the source of SCP-059. Infectees are generally pleased with their condition and often refer to being in the blue light of heaven. SCP-059-1 is affected by most fungicides, but new growth will continue as long as SCP-059 is present. Early-stage SCP-059-1 infections in humans may be treated with grizofluven. However, the treatment is only 90% likely to lead to death by radiation poisoning. Treated individuals lose their immunity to radiation and will already have absorbed a lethal dose prior to treatment. Late-stage treatment should not be attempted, as too much tissue will already be converted to SCP-059-1. Data expunged. The remains of failed treatments should be kept out of range of SCP-059, otherwise data expunged. SCP-059 specimens have been discovered in 8 different underground locations, across a range of 5,000 kilometers. No pattern has emerged for their appearance. Specimens range from 1 to 10 kilograms in size, and are not part of the normal rock formations in the areas where they have been found. Addendum. Dr. Blank has recorded and analyzed the patterns of radiation emitted from the contained SCP-059-1 colony, and believes SCP-059-1 may be sapient and attempting to communicate via controlled emissions of radiation. Initial attempts to analyze this language reveal data expunged. And no links, so we shall head on to SCP-060. SCP-060. Object Class Keter. Special Containment Procedures. The grove which contains SCP-060 is currently contained in a series of specially constructed greenhouses at Satellite Site 66-060. Specimens are to be pruned regularly to keep at a manageable size. Personnel are banned from smoking while within 5 km of Satellite Site 66-60. Personnel are to refrain from bringing lighters, matches, tasers, or any other tool readily capable of starting a fire into Satellite Site 66-060. SCP-060 specimens are to be watered twice daily and checked weekly for dead plant matter and saplings. Dead plant matter and saplings are to be pruned, shredded, and composted properly in the dedicated facility on site. Afterwards, returned to SCP-060's containment chamber. Fragments of SCP-060 may not be moved off-site for any reason without explicit written permission by 2 or more Level 4 personnel. In the event of a breach by SCP-060 Alpha, personnel are to enter lockdown mode and activate on-site fire suppression systems. Redundant on-site fire suppression systems have been installed through the site, including water, chemical retardations, to be utilized in tandem in the event of a containment breach. Portable extinguishers are to be kept available at all times. Containment Chamber 060 Alpha 001 is a dedicated circular containment chamber designed to contain SCP-060 Alpha during testing. This chamber is constructed of concrete with a 0.2 meter thickness asbestos coating, with a series of chimneys to allow for ventilation of heat during containment. The walls are fitted with 24 CO2 projectors evenly spaced at 45 degrees along the walls and will activate in the presence of temperatures exceeding 200 degrees Celsius. 1 kilogram of SCP-060 material is to be kept within Containment Chamber 060 Alpha 001 to be burned in the event of a breach. Description: SCP-060 is a grove of 17 white oak trees. Quercus alba. The grove is spread across approximately 8 acres in rural northeastern Minnesota. A house on the property was demolished during the construction of Satellite Site 66-060 after being combed by Foundation personnel for information regarding SCP-060. See addendum. When burned, SCP-060 will produce an entity henceforth designated SCP-060-Alpha. SCP-060-Alpha appears to be an animate adult human skeleton approximately 2.3 meters tall and surrounded by bright white flames. SCP-060-Alpha initially burns at a temperature of approximately 1,500 degrees Celsius, around 2,730 degrees Fahrenheit, and will attempt to cause as much damage as possible when active. Burning as little as 20 grams of SCP-060 will cause SCP-060-Alpha to appear. One instance of SCP-060-Alpha will appear at any time. It is theorized that SCP-060-Alpha is a unique entity. SCP-060-Alpha is extremely dangerous, having proven to be hostile and relatively intelligent. It appears to be a single reoccurring entity, showing a growing familiarity with Satellite Site 66-060's layout, over the course of several manifestations. When given the opportunity, it will throw itself bodily at flammable materials in an effort to cause damage, and assault personnel with a focus on grappling and strangulation. Additionally, it is proven capable at running at speeds of up to 80 kilometers per hour, or 50 miles per hour, in short bursts, and leaping approximately 5 meters from a running start. Due to the extreme temperatures produced by 060-Alpha during the initial stages of manifestation, along with its physical capabilities, it is capable of causing large uncontrolled fire and widespread property damage if left unchecked. SCP-060-Alpha appears to intentionally avoid burning instances of SCP-060 when it becomes active. If SCP-060-Alpha is introduced to a high enough volume of water or other flame-retardant material over a short amount of time, it will begin to weaken to the point where it will collapse to dust. Collapse will occur suddenly with little warning. SCP-060-Alpha will continue to pose a threat until it collapses. The volume of suppressive material required to subdue SCP-060-Alpha is approximately less than what would be expected to quench a heat source of its intensity, with volume of approximately 500 liters proving sufficient. Areas burned by SCP-060-Alpha will begin to yield sapling instances of SCP-060 over the following 4 to 6 weeks. Only one wave of sapling growth will follow any given containment breach. Said saplings are easily pulled and should be composted and supplied to SCP-060's containment chambers. Additional information regarding SCP-060. The property containing SCP-060 contained a burned-out, secluded house upon Foundation acquisition. According to civilian sources, the house's previous owner was a Jonathan Corhill, who is reported to have been a somewhat solitary eccentric, with a tendency towards bitterism and nihilism. Mr. Corhill was reported as a missing person in late 1996, several months after having suddenly cut off all ties to family members and friends. The last person to have come into contact with Jonathan Corhill was his brother, Christopher, via a telephone call. According to his brother, Corhill had developed an interest in the study of Victorian-era occultism. Furthermore, he reported that Jonathan Corhill had seemed normal up until the last phone call, at which point he told Christopher never to contact him again. Later in the year, a mail carrier visited the home to deliver a notice of foreclosure, finding it instead as a burned-out shell. Examination showed that the fire began in the living room, in the general vicinity of the fireplace. It is now assumed that SCP-060-Alpha manifested within the house, while Corhill burned SCP-060 in the fireplace. Considering SCP-060's Alpha's nature, why the house was not entirely destroyed during this alleged manifestation is as of yet unknown. No human remains were found within the structure. Jonathan Corhill's whereabouts, and whether he is alive or dead, is currently unknown. Going back, we have a link for an adult white skeleton, which is another SCP link, so we're not going to read that just now. That's the end of SCP-060. On to SCP-061. SCP-061 Object Class Safe. Special Containment Procedures. The source code for SCP-061 is to be kept on a standard archival quality read-only data compact disc, CD-ROM. 4 copies of the CD-ROM with the source code are to be stored in separate maximum security inanimate object lockers, except for purposes of approved experimentation. SCP-061 is not to be loaded, compiled, or run. Research proposals for SCP-061 require written approval from Site Command. Only one copy of the CD-ROM containing the source code for SCP-061 may be used at any time. The CD-ROM is to be returned to storage immediately after having been used to load the source code for SCP-061 to a device. SCP-061 must never be loaded, compiled, or run on any device which has a connection to the Internet, either directly or via another device. SCP-061 must never be loaded, compiled, or run on any device that is physically capable of wireless activity, regardless of whether that connectivity is in use. For purposes of approved experimentation, SCP-061 may be loaded, compiled, and run on a LAN consisting of no more than 3 devices plus peripherals. No devices are to be disconnected from the LAN during experimentation. Following the conclusion of experimentation, all devices within the LAN are to be immediately reformatted. Audio output peripherals for this LAN are to be contained within an observatory chamber surrounded by noise-canceling vacuum insulation. In the event of a perimeter breach by hostiles during SCP-061 experimentation, all devices within the LAN are to be immediately destroyed. Description: SCP-061 is an acoustic computer program being developed by SCP researchers with the intent of producing successful countermeasures to similar programs being developed by governments and individuals around the world. Inspired by research on data expunged, SCP Command saw both the potential and harm in the ability to control brain functions of another human being. Laymen understand that music can elicit certain emotions and memories of various sounds can elicit fear and excitement by simply being heard. Governments around the world have been attempting to expand on that premise for decades. SCP research is the first to elicit response on higher mental activities. Parts of the brain affected by SCP-061 differ from those stimulated by data expunged or by subliminal messaging. Instead of acting on parts of the brain that are thought to be in control of the subconscious, acoustic frequencies produced by SCP-061 intercept conscious thoughts as they are produced and replace them. Instead of suggestion, the human wiring center bisects the conscious thinking mind of the frontal lobe with the motor control cortical homunculus of the brain. A baseline rhythm convinces the rest of the brain that the conscious mind is asleep, and effectively stops conscious thought from continuing to the rest of the brain. In return, the frontal lobe experiences a pause that resembles the psychological effects of anesthesia. Acoustic codes developed by SCP-061 are interpreted by motor centers in the brain as conscious instructions, and the subject typically acts accordingly. See Addendum 01. Subjects will normally have a blank facial expression while under the influence of SCP-061. They are not responsive to attempts at conversation and express no desires such as hunger or interest in sexual advances. Though all commands are followed without question, the effects of the auditory controls cease once the subject is no longer able to hear the program. Most test subjects report being unable to remember the actions they performed while under control. But a few have experienced the effect of watching helplessly as their body acted against their will. The intent of such research is to discover ways to counteract the effects of auditory mind control. However, only two methods of countermeasures have proven successful as of yet. One, the subject's hearing is impaired so the individual can no longer hear the program, either by covering the ear or deafening the subject. Two, the program itself sends coded instructions to the hearing center of the brain, permanently shutting it down. Though the ear continues to hear, there has been no progress in finding the proper code to reboot the hearing center of the brain. Despite its shortcomings, SCP-061 represents a promising development in the creation of counter-anomalous phenomena. Further research is ongoing. Addendum 01. All subjects are placed under auditory control, issued a coded auditory command, then monitored. Subject 4402F. Command, sleep. Response, subject curled up in the fetal position on the floor, and her brain began emitting alpha waves associated with sleep. Her eyes remained wide open in the typical blank empty expression associated with controlled subjects, but her eyes twitched rapidly in ways associated with REM sleep. Subject 4427M. Command, run on a treadmill. Response, subject mounted treadmill and proceeded to run. Subject did not turn on the treadmill, resulting in the subject impacting the control platform. Subject repeated this task until the stop command was issued. Note, more detailed commands are advised for task-oriented commands. Subject 4427M. Command, turn treadmill on, run on treadmill. Response, subject turned on the treadmill to maximum speed, mounted, and attempted to run before being ejected off the conveyor belt. Subject repeatedly attempted to turn on the treadmill to a random speed and run it with various outcomes. Note, more detailed commands are advised for task-oriented activities. Subject 4427M. Command, turn on treadmill to jogging speed. Jog on treadmill. Response, subject successfully jogged on the treadmill until stop command was issued, which resulted in the subject being ejected off the conveyor belt. Note, subjects should be in a safe neutral position before stop commands are issued. They really just did 4427M. Real disservice there. Alright. We have developed by governments, which is SCP-5050, which we're not going to get to just yet. Individuals, which is SCP-4833. We have further research, or further and research are two different. Further is SCP-2140, and research is SCP-4445. So, for now, that'll be the end of SCP-061. On to SCP-062. Object Class, Euclid. Special Containment Procedures. SCP-062 is stored in a dedicated containment cell at Site Blank under clean room conditions. Any experimentation on SCP-062 must receive prior permission from at least 2 Level 3 personnel, and must only be performed with independent power sources. SCP-062 must never be attached to an external network, and all data extracted from SCP-062 is to be stored on external non-volatile media until analyzed. Description: SCP-062 appears to be an unbranded personal desktop computer housed in an aluminum case of indeterminate manufacture. SCP-062 is unusually heavy at approximately 24 kilograms and lacks manufacturing or brand labels of any kind. The words "Information is freedom, sick" were found scratched into the casing near the back, apparently with a key or similar object. Inspection of its interior has revealed SCP-062 is empty except for a blank circuit board in place of where the motherboard of a standard personal computer would be. SCP-062 will not function unless the case is completely sealed, and attempts to open the case while it is operating cause it to shut down immediately. Despite this, SCP-062 operates as expected for a normal desktop computer, with the exception that its performance, operating system, contained data, and language appear to be different upon every activation. SCP-062 was discovered in the basement of the University of Blank Computer Science Laboratory by Redacted. A Foundation agent seized the object and brought it to Site Blank, where it has since been contained. Addendum 062-001 List of notable activation results. Date, blank, blank, blank. Description: SCP-062 appeared to be running Windows XP in Catalan. Analysis of contained data showed financial records for the redacted banking firm in France for the period of May 1963 to April 1987. These records were inconsistent with actual bank records procured by undercover Foundation agents. Date, blank, blank, blank. Description: SCP-062 appears to be running Debian Linux in Latin. Contained data consists of a library of audio recordings of over blank choral songs and hymns, of which blank are not found in any known collection, or have ever been performed. Date, blank, blank, blank. Description: SCP-062 appears to be running a version of Solaris in Portuguese. Contained data consists of promotional and marketing material for Redacted, which appears to be a commercial flight space corporation that does not exist. Date, blank, blank, blank. Description: SCP-062 appears to be running an unknown operating system visually similar to OS-2, or /2, with an unknown language later identified to have strong similarities to that of the Voynich manuscript. Attempts at deciphering the contained data are ongoing. Date, blank, blank, blank. Description: SCP-062 appears to be running Redacted in French. Contained data confirms that of Standard Foundation... Contained data confirms to be that of a Standard Foundation workstation, though the site indicated by its location data, Site Blank, does not exist. Investigation is ongoing. Date, blank, blank, blank. Description: SCP-062 appears to be running Apple OS X in what appears to be Akkadian cuneiform script. Contained data appears to be composed mainly of religious texts, descriptions of ritual and ceremonial procedures. Date, blank, blank, blank. Description redacted. Investigation is ongoing to how the virus managed to compromise 3 workstations and 1 file server before SCP-062 was forcibly shut down. All affected workstations have been isolated. And no links, so that is the end of SCP-062. On to SCP-063. Object Class Safe. Special Containment Procedures. SCP-063 is to be kept at all times within Dr. Blank's personal bathroom, located within the personal quarters upon Site-19. Object is to be used as designated as at least once in a 24-hour period, or the object will begin to emit an unknown specialized radiation that results in objects and material within a 0.6 meter, 2 feet radius being slowly warped and eventually disintegrated into a fine dust. Radiation's effect on living test subjects has not been monitored. Description: SCP-063 appears to be an average pale blue SCP-063 appears to be an average pale blue toothbrush. Stenciled along the side of the object are the words, "The world's best toothbrush." Sick. The word toothbrush is spelled incorrectly. Sorry, tothbrush. The word toothbrush is spelled incorrectly, though whether this is accidental or a purposeful action by the creators of the object are unknown. SCP-063 displays the ability to effortlessly cleave through any and all dead or inorganic matter, the focal point of this ability being the bristles. However, matter touched by the bristles is not separated, such as by way of a knife, but completely expunged from existence, leaving no trace whatsoever. This mode of operation is reminiscent of SCP-2207, suggested the two anomalies share a connection, or were created by the same entity or entities. Additionally, subjects who have used SCP-063 have claimed that the experience left their teeth feeling remarkably clean, in spite of its extraordinary abilities. That's right. In spite of its extraordinary abilities, lab analysis has discerned that SCP-063 is completely made of common plastic. Addendum: SCP-063 was originally found in St. Petersburg on the person of blank, a thief working in the area using SCP-063's abilities to crack safes. When questioned about the object, subject professed ignorance, claiming that he simply found the object one day. Questioning of the subject continued until he took his own life. His reasoning for doing so, as of yet, unknown. We have a link that I assume is just to SCP-2207. Yep. So we're on to SCP-064. Object Class: Safe. Special Containment Procedures. SCP-064 is to be kept in a suitably remote area for observation. Current goals are to generate a geometric model of the object's behavioral pattern and to observe any changes in this pattern due to location or soil composition. Certain sites in the Gobi Desert and Australian outback, as well as a number of salt flats scattered around the globe, are under consideration for future testing. SCP-064's current location is classified to all personnel under Clearance Level 3. Once growth is stopped, field teams are to document the structure's size, shape, composition, and remove the object for transport to a new site. Greetings, Kinu. I'm not quite sure what footiveness means. You know what? I will look it up. Apparently that's a content creator. I have no idea who this is. I apologize. Okay, where were we? Nice. Description. SCP-064 is a light brown earthenware brick composed primarily of silicon oxides and some organic matter. The object weighs 1.6 kilograms and measures some 10 centimeters by 6 by 20 centimeters. Its surface is smooth and flat, with some minor cosmetic chips. By and large, the object is visually similar to most solid bricks used in construction. When left lying on a flat expanse of soft earth, SCP-064 will begin to multiply through an unknown mechanism. Close observation reveals the appearance of an irregular lattice of silicon fibers in the shape of the original object, which then fills and solidifies with a soil-based mixture until it attains the proper mass. This process may be similar to mycelia propagation in fungi, with microscopic root structures mining minerals from soil in the immediate vicinity. Under optimal conditions, soil compositions at roughly 90% silicon dioxide, it takes approximately 70 minutes for one complete brick to appear. Given a large expanse of Earth to work with, SCP-064 produces a highly complex but theoretically stable freestanding brick structure, including floors and ceilings. Past observations indicate that the structure could attain the shape of a 12-pointed star over 10 kilometers in diameter and considerable height. However, this is speculative, as growth stops permanently once the structure contacts a significant obstacle. However, to include any solid object over 10... However, this is speculative, as growth stops permanently once the structure contacts a significant obstacle. Observed to include any solid object over 10 kilograms in mass. Structural integrity is very high, as bricks orient themselves to be as level as possible and fit together almost perfectly. Interestingly, the structure's growth is tailored to a specific set of cardinal directions, with SCP-064 always being the northmost brick in the lowest level. SCP-064 must be attached for growth to occur. Once SCP-064 is removed, the structure begins to decay and all secondary bricks crumble to dust at a rate roughly equivalent to the rate of their appearance. Replacing the object within 20 minutes halts this decay and allows growth to continue past this threshold. The process is irreversible. SCP-064 was found by chance in April of 20-blank. During satellite observations of an elevated plateau in the Andes Mountains, a camera operator noticed that one structure was apparently growing. Extrapolating the object's approximate location from the structure's apparent direction of growth, which stopped during recovery, field teams located the object by differences in color between SCP-064 and its secondary bricks, which were high in iron oxides from the local soil. A full excavation of the original site is underway in order to ascertain the object's cultural and technological origins. Carry on, we move to SCP-065. SCP-065, Object Class Euclid. Special Containment Procedures. As SCP-065 cannot be moved, it has been contained on-site at Site Blank. It has been contained on-site, and Site Blank has been established around it. Site Blank has been marked as a government research facility off-limits to civilians, and unauthorized individuals attempting to gain access to the area are to be detained, questioned, and administered a Class A amnestic if deemed necessary by site security. An area, 17 meters in radius, around the center of SCP-065 has been designated the Red Zone. Personnel may not enter the Red Zone of SCP-065 at any time, and experimentation with SCP-065 may only be performed with prior approval from at least 2 Level 3 senior research staff. Personnel at high risk of cancer must not be assigned to Site Blank, and all Site Blank personnel must undergo mandatory monthly physical evaluations, including cancer screenings. Description: SCP-065 is a spherical region of space approximately 12 meters in radius, located on a farm near Redacted. SCP-065 was formed by the destruction of an anomalous artifact on-site by a global occult coalition on blank blank blank. Immediately following this initial event, the radius of SCP-065 was estimated to have initially expanded to a 108 meters in radius, resulting in the deaths of 11 GOC operatives and 5 civilians. Since containment by the Foundation, the effective radius of SCP-065 has shrunk to and remained stable at its current size. SCP-065 causes abnormal transfiguration of any living individual within its area of effect. These effects include, but are not limited to, regression of specialized cells to undifferentiated stem site, spontaneous separation and fusion of undifferentiated cells, spontaneous necrosis of living tissue and reanimation of dead tissue, rapid genetic mutation of living tissue. These effects occur at a rate proportional to the mass and complexity of the organism. Plants and insects show few, if any, effects. Small animals will exhibit alterations following several days of exposure. Larger animals will show harmful mutations within hours, and human subjects exposed to the Red Zone have been fatally altered within approximately 15 minutes of exposure. To date, all All attempts at directly observing the center of SCP-065 have failed, as SCP-065 causes a form of extreme sensory confusion in all observers that extends to recording. As SCP-065 causes a form of extreme sensory confusion in all observers that extends to recording equipment. Affected personnel have reported highly distorted vision and hearing that persists to several hours and can result in severe dizziness and nausea. Researcher note: on blank blank blank, a robotic rover designed to be somatosensory rather than visual or acoustic navigation managed to reach the center of SCP-065 and retrieve several objects. When pieced back together, these objects appear to be the shattered fragments of a stone figurine of Kokopelli, a Native American fertility deity. Along with pre-incident data obtained from the Global Occult Coalition, it appears that this artifact had been used by the civilian family to boost yield on their farm, and only came to the attention of the GOC when an investigation by the United States Department of Agriculture revealed genetic markers on their supposed organic crops consistent with those of genetically modified organisms, GMO crops. The GOC attempted an on-site destruction of this artifact, resulting in the creation of SCP-065. Following this incident, the GOC contacted a Foundation liaison and requested assistance in containing the resulting anomaly. Addendum 065-2. Attached document. The following document was discovered from the formerly civilian-owned farmhouse at Site Blank. John, I heard things aren't going so well back home. I wish I could come back and help right now, but it's tough over here right now as well, and we're on the verge of some important discoveries. I know it's not much, but I found this during the trip. The man who gave it to me described it as a representation of that which is and that which it might be, planted by the cornfield, and hopefully it will help make ends meet. See you soon, G. That's the end of SCP-065. On to SCP-066, which I think will likely be our last SCP, but we'll see. Item number, SCP-066. Object class crossed out is safe, and prodest. Uncrossed out is Euclid and impetus. Special containment procedures. Crossed out is the following. SCP-066 is to be kept in a safe disposal. SCP-066 is to be kept in a safe deposit box at Site-21. Personnel level 2 or higher may perform experiments on SCP-066 after filing the relevant request forms. Researchers may log their experiments in Experiment Log 066 Beta. And now, that's the end of the crossed-out portion. For the true portion, SCP-066 is to be kept in a tungsten carbide box in Site-21's high-value item storage facility. Once every month, this box must be manually inspected for damage to the interior. And a footnote, SCP-066 constantly destroys any recording devices placed inside its containment box. Back to the article. If damage is present, SCP-066 must be moved to a new box. This task is performed via a robotic arm capable of performing the task in under 3 seconds. Description: SCP-066 is an amorphous mass of braided yarn and ribbon weighing approximately 1 kilogram. Strands of SCP-066 may be taken individually and manipulated. When this is done, a note in the diatomic scale, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, is produced by the object. When a set of 6 or more notes are produced, SCP-066 will begin a benign, as crossed out, effect of varying nature and duration. SCP-066 will not respond to manipulation while any effect produced by it is in progress. Prior to Incident 066-2, results have included SCP-066 transformed into a small calico kitten for 17 minutes. The kitten exhibited significant friendliness and playfulness and appeared to be declawed. Next, a song lasted 4 minutes, acoustic guitar with vocal accompaniment by songer/songwriter redacted. The lyrics warned the listener not to use sharp objects without parental supervision. Next, a small cupcake, chocolate with chocolate frosting, and a lit candle stuck on top. Notably, the tunes produced prior to the effect correspond to the opening notes of Happy Birthday. SCP-066 became responsive after said cupcake was consumed. Incident 066-2. On April 18, 2008, D-066-4437 was instructed to use a pair of scissors to remove a portion of SCP-066 for testing. However, when he began to cut it, SCP-066 rolled 1 meter away from him before stopping and making an unidentified squeaking sound. Before he could be provided with further instruction, D-066-4437 attempted to cut it again. SCP-066 rolled away and produced the phrase, "Are you Eric?" In response, after D-066-4437 replied in the negative, SCP-066 morphed into its present state and began emitting loud, dissonant static. And began emitting loud, I can read this. And began emitting loud, dissonant staccato notes until D-066-4437 was escorted from the room. After incident 066-2, SCP-066 began to exhibit behaviors highly inconsistent with its previous properties. SCP-066 now displays significant mobility, primarily in the form of being able to move tentacle portions of itself at very high speeds. While SCP-066 is either unable or unwilling to use its ability for transportation, it will occasionally attempt to damage its containment by rubbing its strands against the side of the box, gradually wearing it down. This process appears to be unusually effective for the materials in consideration. Additionally, SCP-066 will automatically produce notes and effects in the presence of any human, regardless of whether that human interacts with SCP-066. This process takes a minimum of 6 seconds. In the aftermath of Incident 066-2, effects produced by SCP-066 have included a single bee was released near the containment, stinging D-4436 before flying away. The bee was not captured, and it's unknown how the bee survived. Beethoven's Second Symphony was played at over 140 decibels, causing permanent deafness in 3 personnel and permanent hearing damage in 8 others. The room containing SCP-066 experienced a sudden and complete absence of light for 5 hours. Personnel in the room reported hearing loud breathing behind their shoulders, although no source was apparent. When it is not producing anomalous effects, SCP-066 will say the name Eric consistently in a deep, masculine voice. And that is the end of SCP-066. And yeah, for now, that's going to be the end of our SCP reading for today. Thank you very much, everyone, for coming, especially Kinu, for talking in chat. No, it wasn't much. It's still nice to have someone show up. For those of you on YouTube, I'd love a like if you watched this far and enjoyed it, and I'd love a subscription if you want to keep watching, because I'll be coming out with more very soon, and likely already have, depending on where you're watching it, when you're watching it, of course. But again, thank you all for coming. It's been a wonderful time reading for you, and this is where I'm going to end it today. Sleep well or have a nice day, whichever applies, and I want you to know that you're appreciated.